Hello, everyone. Welcome to Weekends with Amit. And today's subject is very important. When we want something to happen, anything for that matter, we generally are very gung ho about it and we want to do something. We are all charged up. And then, more often than not, something goes wrong. Some obstacles come in our way. And that is the very, very important point where we need to know how to go beyond that obstacle and carry on with our journey. Here, today we are going to learn about unblocking obstacles for manifestation. A lot of us are interested in manifesting things, but are we aware what kind of obstacles can come our way and how do we go around them? And to know how we do that, we have Professor Amit Goswami and Dr. Valentina Onisar with us today. A very, very warm welcome to the show. The subject today is unblocking obstacles for manifestation. And I personally believe that this is a wonderful thing to know. Who doesn't want to manifest things? Do we know exactly what can stop us? So, this is where we begin our quest today. And over to Professor Goswami.
Thank you, Krishna. Yeah, this is a pet subject for me. I got into the idea a long time ago in the 70s when um, Fred Alan Wolf introduced the notion that became very popular in New Age circles. We create our own reality based on the idea that was emerging from quantum measurement theory, quantum physics, that we have possibilities. That's what quantum physics predicts. And then who chooses out of the possibility? Von Neumann said our personal consciousness chooses. That gave rise to the slogan, we create our own reality. But when the shenanigans all stopped, what was the case was that paradoxes arise if we assume that our personal consciousness can choose the outcome of an investigation of possibilities. So what chooses them? This led to the cut to the chase. This led to my discovery in the 1980s that consciousness chooses, but consciousness as the ground of being, consciousness as the whole enchilada, entire consciousness as oneness of everything. That spiritual slogan that you hear. That's what chooses. So the first obstacle, obviously, is to think that we can choose from personal consciousness. That goes nowhere. Our personal wishes do not usually connect to consciousness. Second one is that what connects to consciousness then? It turns out that movement of consciousness is purposive. It has purpose. You can easily examine that even human personal consciousness often tend to be purposive. We do things with a purpose. Contrary to what materialist science says, most of it is hogwash anyway, as far as human beings are concerned. Materialist science holds for material objects, don't hold for human beings. Human beings have purpose. So this is one of the ways that we know that materialist science does not hold for human beings. And of course, we create our own reality, lives out purpose. We create our own reality if our creation is purposive, our intention is purposive. What kind of intention should be purposive? Well, that's the crunch. What is the purpose of this universe? What is the purpose that consciousness created manifestation at all? Created the world of manifestation. Some analysis, which I have done elsewhere, shows, especially biological evolution, shows clearly that the purpose is the exploration and embodiment of what we call archetypes. This is a Platonic concept. These are the objects of our intuition. These are the highest context for our thinking and feeling. I'll name you the 9 archetypes of importance to us: abundance, power, beauty, goodness, love, truth, justice, and wholeness, and finally, self. These 9 archetypes has given us exploration and embodiment by some human beings have given us civilization. If we intend to manifest these, then we could have a chance. For that too, we need creativity, but we have a chance of manifesting our intention. This is straight quantum science, straight quantum physics. Of course, even then, we don't even know. And that's where the question of obstacles come from. What are other obstacles besides these obvious obstacles? But another obstacle is very easy to think of. Anything that gives us neurotic tendencies, and here by neurosis I mean very generally contraction of consciousness. Ego that we normally have also has a certain amount of contraction, but still we have the ability of say no, to say no to our things that we don't want. So in ego's normal situation, if obstacles arise, we do have the power to say no. And then we get into neurotic circumstances, anxious, fearful, what have you. Then we cannot say no anymore. We get frozen into inaction. So that kind of obstacle. What kind of obstacles are there? Again, something's pretty obvious. Negative emotions are that kind of obstacle. If you are into throes of anger, if you are into throes of domination of another person, if you are into throes of jealousy, your consciousness is so contracted that you are locked into your personal unconscious and you cannot connect to the consciousness at the ground of being, that oneness consciousness. So that's an obstacle. Excessive pleasure can be an obstacle. The easiest example, of course, substance addiction, alcohol, tobacco, even hard drugs, heroin, cocaine. Why are these very serious obstacles? Because these obstacles are not just pleasure. They begin as pleasure, then they become addictive. Addiction is a real obstacle because with addiction, you lose control. That saying no to conditioning, saying no to obstacle, that power that even the ego has, that power just goes away. Ego loses control. You are an alcoholic or tendency of being an alcoholic, you take a couple of drinks and you lose it. You lose it. Why? Because what happens is that the brain puts some of its cells away, neurons away from harm's way, which is alcohol. Alcohol kills neurons. And therefore, what happens, you need more and more and more alcohol to get to the same kind of nice state that got you to alcohol in the first place. And therefore, what happens is that after you have taken 2 drinks, you're not getting any effect. You take 3, then you take 4, then you take 5. By that time, you are a god. You don't have any control on your consciousness left. You cannot say no to contraction. And therefore, this is a major obstacle. What is the remedy for such an obstacle? Well, Valentina will talk more about it, but let me just quickly mention it is not simple, but it can be done. It's not abstention per se. abstention, of course, look, if you're an alcoholic, it's a whole bunch of effort to come out of it. But if you catch yourself in the tendency of becoming an alcoholic, then you can learn something. It is within our power. This is called moderation, middle path. We cannot eliminate pleasure. Pleasure is a necessity sometimes. Yes, after a long, hard day's work, we need a little bit to relax. And then one drink is not a bad idea. And considering your makeup, you might be able to handle even two drinks without scaring the brain that it starts saving its neurons from alcohol. But more? No. That's the thing. That's moderation. You've had enough. As soon as you start feeling good, that means that you had enough. Just as food, as soon as you start that you are feeling full, you had enough. You had more than enough actually, but if you stop at that time, that's moderation. More you stop, more you will find that point where you have to stop. That's called moderation, behavior signifying moderation. Once you learn that, there is no fear of indulging in pleasure because you know exactly when to stop. Okay, that's that one. But another one is similar, but very unfortunate. This is on the other side. You are not doing substance abuse, you are being abused. This one is a major problem with women because a very large number of women today at schools, at colleges, at workplace get abused, literally. We have not been civilized enough for men to realize that abusing another person is just not civilized and even bad for your own health. But let's talk about the women who suffered the abuse. It's a trauma. And these women forever has a place where contraction is the rule. If that place is touched, the woman's consciousness will immediately contract and create an obstacle for creativity. Many of these women additionally get obese. So my collaborator in a book called Quantum Activation, Carl Blake, he coined the word abusity. Abuse and obesity together. And it's a definite no-no. This is a big obstacle, big obstacle. How do we eliminate it? This one does not even depend on the person who is being abused. This one depends on the social consciousness. We really have to raise consciousness of people what is civilized behavior. And pretend behavior will not do. Pretend behavior is only for the public, for show. That's what scientific materialism proposes, pretend behavior. No. Men really have to understand the value of a human being. That human being is not a machine. I cannot look at a human being as an object of pleasure. Cannot. And put a stop to this. Society must put a stop to this by educating, educating, and educating. If educated early, all men can learn that abusing another person is out of the question. And then only we can deal with this problem. Huge problem. Abuse. What else? Well, there is another problem that is showing up today. Lots of people get into information processing, social media, and such. Relationships are disappearing. The most recent social media, I'll name it TikTok, that does not even require to have a relationship with another. You just put up your stuff, your video on the TikTok platform. That's it. It's for others to look at. And if it clicks, then you will get a lot of publicity from it. But that's it. There's no relationship anymore. Social media used to be social media. This is not even social media. This is just to purely for gratification of your whatever you did does not add to any way, any remote way even, to relationship. And it is this lack of relationship that this signifies. Social media is a killer of lack of relationship already. And then TikTok type publicity is a complete killer of relationship. And if your relationships are not there, you never get a chance of expanding your consciousness. You never get a chance of including another person in your psyche. And that way, one of the biggest obstacles are now being created by these obnoxious things called information technology and its abuse. I could go on and on, obviously. Another situation that we covered very well in our book, Quantum Activation, of which Gary Stewart was the third author, and he is an expert on family constellation therapy, mainly, again, dealing with child abuse. And so that is another kind of obstacle that happens due to reincarnation. Reincarnation gives us bad karma, stuff that act as obstacles against our creative intentions. And they get reincarnated. Why? Because we want to get rid of the bad karma and bring them to work on if we have chosen a life of creativity. But first of all, we have to remove the bad karma. And if it is abusing little girls, then of course I'm stuck. So family constellation therapy has found that if we just remind the person very solidly, the person really recognizes that this is bad karma, this is not his character, he can leave it. It's really possible to just leave it. Just acknowledge that this is not me. That's enough. Only little therapy is needed after that revelation that no, this does not identify me, this abusive character. And then people can come out of this abusive character and get back to their archetype of exploration and creativity and manifestation. Well, I pretty much covered what I wanted to cover. Valentina, it's your turn. Please.
Right. Thank you, Amit. Yeah, I know that you love the subject, and me too, because it's a fundamental subject to become aware of the blockages before we engage in any path of transformation. And we discuss the subject in extensive in many of our courses. For example, even in the quantum brain, people become familiar with all the negative emotional brain circuits and so on. Important things that once you realize that we have them, then we know how to address them. And also, of course, in the course on quantum science of manifestation, which is the course that we both love. So let me just also mention some things here. So, of course, when we say science of manifestation is like bringing God on our side. And in order to do that, the first quality to be developed is to listen to God or to consciousness or however you call it. But most people don't have time for that. We think that we have so many other things to do all the time. Yeah. And then thinking that we can create our own reality is the next thing, because again, the idea is that we have to know how to access this bigger consciousness. Is not something that you do from the ego level or from the small intelligence level, let's say, and the first thing we have to learn is actually to pay attention, which is something that, again, now we work on a book on education, and many times we get questions on education for children. How, nowadays families are more interested and they see the obstacles that actually they are created even in the childhood. You just throw a tablet or a phone to a kid and you destroy their brain. So again, learning to pay attention as soon as possible is something important. And of course, again, if you're in sufferance or your health is not very good, that's another thing, to learn to pay attention and see what is that message that is there, what is the obstacle that occurs there. Because if we don't pay attention, then consciousness will just choose the average. Yeah. So again, first of all, we have to learn to pay attention. It has to be intention with attention. Yeah. So intention again is making a certain desire my focus. It's a focused attention that requires attention. Yeah. So also before meditating, before anything, attention has to be trained. Yeah. And uh, then only, kind of. And about obstacles, so just to add a few more things, so all these are obstacles in creating our own reality, in actually in being in that place where we co-create our reality. All these obstacles, they are blocking in the path of our creativity. Yeah. And yes, there are many of them, they are built into the brain, some of it actually. uh, and also they can be external. Yeah. So we divide them into internal and external, and in this book that Amit mentioned, you can read more. Yeah. Quantum activation. So internal habits like mental hygiene and later on, okay, attention, they're very much needed to work in the work for cleaning traumas, or to even engage forgiveness. Many times we have to be able to see what is behind all that vicious circle that we have in our life, and we usually blame others. But first thing would be to really just stay still and be attentive and see where is that block. Even in your being, try to connect with the physical body, and maybe you will get a message from that. Yeah. um, Many people, of course, in nowadays society, we are a bit self-destructive and many times negative, and of course this is because of the brain is throwing negative stuff at us, all these negative emotions, violence, domination that you see nowadays. It's actually a characteristic of what's happening with humanity nowadays. So much competition and domination, and even we see this even in schools of so-called transformation. So again, it's about the internal barriers, one which I notice also in working with myself and others. I see that a very important barrier is inertia. Yeah. And then, of course, again, competition, domination, selfishness, miscenteredness, also loneliness can be there. But again, lack of focus, lack of attention, and then lack of awareness, of course, that's something to consider. And so that's a beginning. And again, think that I mentioned the archetypes. So in science of manifestation, or also when we learned about the creativity process and the seven eyes, so it has to be a certain level of abundance, we say, yeah. And then we describe what is abundance. And if we don't even have this inner perception that we have this inner wealth to start with, then it's not going to be a real process. And at the end, I will do a short meditation if you want, to just see where you are with this process and how you perceive yourself. Because again, real abundance is actually the ability to use all that is at hand at any given moment, and we can solve any aspect that we confront with. Yeah. And again, actually, lack of abundance, if you want, means that I don't have something in me, so I need to look it outside of me. So, and it's not just money, it's about love and so on. So we just project our centers, let's say, outside, and there's not possible that from this action, something else than sufferance will come. Yeah. So, and then if you want external barriers, of course, all the society and information processing, as Amit mentioned, addiction to entertainment. And then we create our own obstacles, because of course, you see, the jobs are not giving us archetypal satisfaction and so on. And yeah, we have the predators that Amit mentioned again. So, and then there can be obstacles that we cannot analyze, unpredictable, like what happened with the COVID or other things. Yeah. So we call it crisis because we don't know initially how to handle and what is behind that. And then the thing is what to do at the personal level. Yeah. Where can you act? What are your choices there? And again, if we don't have a supramental attention, actually, or quantum attention, however you call it, you cannot even see your choices. You think that you're blocked by something else, So that's something to consider. Then there are many other obstacles, like, for example, obstination, how we call it, resistance towards transformation. a lot of stubbornness can be there in the process, especially as we grow, we form a very strong ego. So, and then again, transformation is more difficult, but not impossible. Then avoiding introspection, running away from focusing on ourselves. No, there are many other obstacles. Then, of course, there's a lot of fear of losing what you have. So you like to live in the squares of what you have created, but actually on the hero's journey, even a simple step that we make outside of the comfort zone, it puts us in the path on the path of the hero. So just think about that. It's fear versus love eventually. So for removing barriers, we start with attention, and then there are in various traditions. For example, you can do chakra balancing exercises. There are exercises of focus, of developing attention and awareness, concentration, meditation to start with on an external object and eventually internal objects. So these are things that can help, tools, but you still have to do your own homework. For this, also a journal is very much needed. And again, I'll tell you a short practice. Or other times, you can do, if you're familiar with the Hindu tradition, you can do Ganesh chanting using yantra and mantras, or even other working with these higher archetypes like cosmic powers, for example. And the idea is, again, that eventually we need to develop a character that is becoming authentic, more and more authentic, and then you can see that you can rely upon, and also others can rely upon. Obviously, also the food will help us. So I'm talking now as a specialist in various forms of medicine. The food is also important. More important is really what you're doing with your brain and your habits and all that. But then again, the food can also help or bring more blockage. I'm not going to go now into this, but check also with a nutritionist, with an Ayurvedic practitioner, because it's going to influence your style of living, the do style. And it's important to balance all these three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas, and there are ways that we can find. But again, the idea is to learn to also keep a journal to see the progress as the obstacles in your life are removed. So just don't take it for granted. It's very important to have this journal, and you can, for example, list a few, some internal, some external obstacles that you perceive that you have on the path of your creativity, on the path of fulfilling your dharma. Lack of love, money, family, I don't know, all kind of recurring negative thoughts, especially if you're in a process that needs forgiveness, for example. Whatever prevents you from manifesting your goals, just put it down. And then you can also list 3 maybe empowering beliefs that you need to practice in order to remove these obstacles and be free to choose your life and co-create a life of meaning and purpose. And then you can even write 3 tasks that you know already that you would do to care and love yourself in this way, because actually loving ourselves is part of this process. If we love ourselves, it's not just giving us some nice clothes or ice cream or this nice lover and all that, but it's also, again, truly the process of loving yourself goes hand in hand with learning how to remove these obstacles. And now there's a meditation, that a reflective exercise. If we have time, we can do it. What do you think, Krishana?
Yes, of course. There is always time for a meditation. Absolutely.
So,
Please go ahead.
it's short. Actually, it's just you can pause it and do it at your time. I'm just going to give you the steps. So it's a reflective exercise that can help everyone to progress a bit on this path of living a life of purpose and meaning. And for that, you need to sit with the back straight, just relax on your chair or in a meditation position, and open your chest, relax the physical body, relax the inner state, try to let go other thoughts, and simply with the eyes closed on this background of relaxation, try to connect with your physical body. For this, you can move your attention to your breathing, simply witnessing the air going in and out for a few moments, as much as you need. Relax your shoulders, your belly. And in this way, you can also start scanning your physical body, see if there are contractions. Right. So now try to see on the screen of your mind, of your consciousness, the following scenario. Imagine that money is no longer an issue in your life and that you have enough to have all that you need in your life. And again, it doesn't concern you anymore because you have and you will always have. So just allow yourself to visualize completely, fully this scenario. So you're not concerned knowing that it's enough for the rest of your life and for everyone in your life, your old parents, your children, you have enough externally. Yeah? So internally, you're not at all concerned. Just take a few moments, as much as you need, to energize all this inside of you. Try to see how your body is relaxing and expanding gradually. And again, you can pause the recording here. And when you're ready, you move to the next step. So continue to look inside of you to all the people that are concerned of all that you're doing. You know, can parents, your sister, your brother, your boss, your students, or anybody who you consider that they care. So take all these people that for you it's important that they validate and approve all that you do. And again, imagine or visualize that they completely validate and approve all that you do. Your friends, your family, your enemies, everyone is validating you, and you know that they will validate you for the rest of your life. And allow yourself time, as much time as you need, and perceive how internally you feel totally relaxed, and that's not anymore an issue, and you feel supported, loved, appreciated. And then again, you can pause and as much as you need, and then put these two together. So money is no longer an issue, plus validation is no longer an issue. And we are completely accepted as we are. So now in this perspective, what do you do? What will you do today, tomorrow, this year, in this life? What when that's no longer an issue? So give yourself a few moments and reflect, feeling free, that you don't need to go to work unless you want to. You're totally free for money and validation. So what will you do next? And focus this question in your heart and ask your heart, what shall I do now? And again, allow yourself to perceive this inner voice of your heart and allow things to come up spontaneously, not rationally. And try to see what do you feel really like doing. All right. And then come back slowly and see if you got any intuition even from this exercise. Okay, thank you.
This was wonderful. Just a few minutes, we could feel the power of this exercise. And I'm sure once our viewers start doing this on a regular basis, this is going to, I would not really say, I mean, say it, but they will feel that what can revolutionize their internal thought process and how things appear to them. I'm sure it will do wonders. Now, with time running out, back to Professor Goswami for a short wrap up.
Thank you, Krishanu. So to wrap it up, the lesson that Valentina gave, in summary, what is that? It is to create opportunities out of the obstacles. You have an obstacle, then you can learn new things to overcome the obstacle, like meditation. I'll tell you another one that especially is very important for creative people to understand. And that's it for today. This one is sexual energy. Now, it is a neuroscientific fact that was recently discovered that sexual energy produces a lot of oxytocin. That you know, oxytocin is sometimes called love molecule, but it's really sex molecule. It's signifying sexual energy. A lot of interest, a lot of instinctual sexual tendencies will arise. What happens in the brain, though, when there is oxytocin in the brain, is that the brain, the neurons can now make a lot of connections, which means that the ego, which is usually confined in a very localized place in the prefrontal cortex, is no longer very localized because the neurons are making connections all over. And if the ego pays attention to that, then ego can expand itself, expansion of consciousness. So this oxytocin makes it easier for us to expand consciousness. And likewise, expansion of consciousness is useful for creativity. So if we learn to do this, not engage the sexual energy, not collapse it in the body, which usually people do at the navel chakra, and then what happens, of course, it just introduces more me-centeredness. That's where that idea of conquesting the opposite sex comes out of. So that's not good. The brain is a good choice because creative avenues will be open and you can be creative. But you know the best choice? Valentin mentioned this already. Best choice is to raise the energy to the heart. Then you can have relationship. You know, people like Einstein was very great creatives, no question. But they handle their sexuality only with the brain. That does not stop you from womanizing, which he did all his life. Sad case. Many cases of creative people are like that, boggled down in not being able to handle sexual energy and getting into problems. Big opportunity. Learn to raise the sexual energy to the heart. Women have this capacity more or less automatically. Men have to learn it. Take that as a challenge. Take that as an opportunity. Thank you. Ishanu?
Thank you so much. It was really a wonderful show. And in fact, if I look at it in the last few discussions that you had, this could be ranked one of the best in terms of content as well as relevance to people what they can do immediately. Thank you both for having this discussion with us. And we already are displaying our website and our contact email on the screens. We have a lot more to offer than this. This is just a little bit of a sneak peek on things that we do. If you want to know more, get in touch with us, click on the links, and we'll get in touch with you, let you know what is there. Till then, thank you so much and see you next week.